the last Monday night game, one that probably won't be as exciting for football purposes, but one that's still going to be pretty interesting for fantasy. We're talking the Tennessee Titans and the Denver Broncos here, and looking at it's not a debut for Drew Lock, and we're already seeing, unfortunately, the loss of Cortland Sutton is going to not give him quite the offense that we were expecting to see. So they go and completely retool and throw a bunch of offensive weapons at Drew Lock, basically in an effort to say, prove to us that you're our guy, or we're going to go trade for Aaron Rodgers in the offseason next year. Whereas the Titans are basically the same team that they were last year, plus Jadeveon Clowney. Guys, I feel like I'm turning into a Titans truther here, because across the fantasy sphere and just football in general, I feel like the Titans don't get a lot of respect. And I think they're a really good team. They showed last year, once Ryan Tannehill got going, they had a very efficient offense. Derrick Henry is arguably one of the best running backs in the league. Their defense was pretty prolific last year, and adding Jadeveon Clowney, this could be a really solid team if they can stay healthy. They have a strong offensive philosophy with just giving complete bowling balls between A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Jonnu Smith. This is going to be a very hard team to tackle. And one thing that we know, too, from the last time we had a lockout situation, one of the big things that we saw, especially early on, and we kind of saw it last night in the Chiefs-Texans game, one of the biggest differences is tackling players. It seems that defenses have a harder time bringing people down that first couple weeks when there isn't a preseason. They're just a little bit rusty. And some of the hardest players to tackle in the NFL are Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. So in a situation where we're already seeing that be a potential chance, I mean, Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown could just completely bowl players over for the first couple weeks of the season, and they might just never stop. I mean, A.J. Brown last year, after he actually started seeing 70% of the snaps, so was actually running routes on 70% of plays, he was second in fantasy scoring outside of only Michael Thomas, and I think he even beat out Devontae Parker from week 10 on. So A.J. Brown is definitely someone that I'm super pumped for this year. But let's talk about this game specifically. I'm giving too much love to the Titans right now. So over under 41, they're expecting this to be a lower scoring game, and that might be the MO with the Titans overall. But I think their offense is efficient enough, and it's concentrated, right? That's anytime we have a lower volume offense, we want it to be concentrated around specific players. So the Vikings are a lower volume offense, but we love Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook. Why? Because there aren't any other players that are taking away targets. The Titans, to me, are the Vikings of the AFC. You have a good defense. You have a really efficient quarterback, not a barn burner by any means, but someone that can get the job done, a strong running back, and a really, really good wide receiver, and a good tight end. Most of the targets are going to go to Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, or most of the touches and targets are going to go to Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Jonnu Smith. So it's a very concentrated offense. We're going to be able to project that these guys are going to score pretty well whenever they have a decent matchup. So right now the Titans are slated to win this one by 2.5 points. Now last year the Titans were average on defense. Bringing in Jadeveon Clowney I think will help them a little bit. And obviously some of this, their team was a completely different team by the back end of the year than they were early on. So I kind of thrown last year's numbers out. And then obviously the Broncos, losing a few key pieces, obviously losing Von Miller is going to hurt them a lot. I think their defense takes a pretty massive step back this year. So I don't think the Titans are going to have a very hard time asserting their will in this one. So obviously you're starting Henry, you're starting Brown, and I think you can start the Titans defense. Without Cortland Sutton there, I'm not nearly as nervous about what Drew Lock is going to do, and I think the Titans can end up, getting a few sacks on him and potentially, getting a pick six, which they had a lot of defensive scores last year. The Titans D were a sneaky defense all season long, or not all season, but once Tannehill took over. So I like the Titans D in this one. Tannehill is an okay start, not someone that I'm trying to force into my lineup because I don't know how many points the Titans are going to need to score to win this game. And Jonnu Smith, I want to see how much they use him. Last year, he was incredibly efficient with the touches that they gave him, but they did not give him very many touches. So if that trend continues, Jonnu Smith might just be one of those players we're going to be waiting all year for the breakout for. If you have a better option, I think you go with it, someone that has a higher projected volume. But I do know that Jonnu Smith has the ability to break a long touchdown pass or run. He's a pretty good running back himself at any time. And then with Corey Davis already dealing with an injury, I'm done. Corey Davis is dead to me. All right, looking over at the Broncos, if we have to start a running back here, I'm still okay with starting Melvin Gordon. He's probably going to end up getting the goal line carries and will most likely be used in more high leverage situations, probably be used more as a passer. I am concerned about his overall usage, though. They're talking a lot about 50-50 splits between him and Lindsay, and it could end up turning into a pretty ugly situation. But if you drafted Melvin Gordon, you're probably in a situation where you have to start him, unless you were talking like the guy earlier where you had Marquise Brown. So I'm going to throw him out there. Hopefully comes out and has a really good week 1. Put a vote of confidence in him, and then if he does have a good week 1, then you can trade him away. Now, Jeudy, I had on my bench list, but with Cortland Sutton out, by nature of what's happening in this offense, I think Jeudy could actually come out and have a pretty solid week 1. Noah Fant as well. Both of these guys will have to take a much bigger step forward in this offense with Cortland Sutton probably missing this week. Do have a backup plan in place if you can. I don't think Cortland Sutton is going to play, but I guess there's a chance that he still comes out. So keep that in mind also. I'm probably not going to play Phillip Lindsay, and I don't trust the Broncos defense heading against Ryan Tannehill and the Titans. And again, I'm not going to trust Drew Lock until I see it, especially with Cortland Sutton out going against a tougher Titans team. I'm not in yet. I know Bronco fans are super excited for this year, and I could be wrong, but I'm not throwing Lock out there in week 1 if I can avoid it. I think the Titans win this one pretty handily. I got the Titans winning this one 31-14. I think this will be one of the bigger blowouts on the week.